The movie opens up with the hero of all of us who is taking a taxi accompanied by an Indian song. He looked restless because there was no one to talk to. Finally he decided to sit next to the driver who was working. They became acquainted. The taxi driver Dopinder. Finally Deadpool had a friend with an official name on the trip. Dopinder wonders why Deadpool is wearing a red costume. Deadpool explains that today is Christmas and he wants to take revenge on the bad guy who did something to his face. Elsewhere Francis, a scientist who creates mutants, is selling his mutants for the sake of war. After the transaction, Francis goes back because he forgot to bring his weapon bag. He only carried a gun that contained 12 bullets. Deadpool also told Dopinder to stop because he had arrived at his destination. Deadpool sat waiting for someone from the highway and finally the group of people he was waiting for arrived. Deadpool immediately jumped from his place into one of the group's cars and he attacked the people inside. Deadpool looks for Francis and he doesn't find him. Then transferred to Xavier's school, the school of the mutants. There, Colossus saw the news of Deadpool making chaos on the streets. Colossus had given Deadpool a chance to join X-Man but Deadpool always acted like a kid. Colossus then invites Negasonic Teenage Warhead to head to where Deadpool is wreaking havoc. Returning to Deadpool place, he still finds the whereabouts of Francis with the remaining 12 bullets.
7. Good Deadpool. 6. Long before I squeeze this ass.
Deadpool kills Francis' men in one meeting, then flashbacks to 2 years ago. Deadpool tells of his past, seen a young man named Wade Wilson who gave a lesson to a pizza delivery man named Jeremy. Wade works at a paymaster's place. There is a woman named Megan who asks her to help teach Jeremy a lesson for terrorizing her. Kind-hearted Wade Wilson accepted the job even though the pay was meager. After successfully threatening the pizza delivery man, Wade meets Megan to show her the results of his work. Megan hugged Wade and thanked him for helping him. Wade then returned to Sister Margareth's place, where the clocks gathered. In it Wade meets his friend Weasel. Wade says if he only accepts beating up bad people from himself and deserves to be beaten, there is a death polling board or Deadpool where bets guess who dies then he will get some money. Weasel bets that Wade will die so he could get some money. Wade then treats everyone to beer and a woman comes to see Wade. Her name is Vanessa. She is an entertainer. Wade then asks what he will get if he gives $275 to Vanessa and then Vanessa answers for 45 minutes. Wade is free to do whatever he wants and they both put the ball on the game board. Because Wade is very good at it, he gets a lot of coupons and then exchanges them for toys. Then Vanessa says 48 minutes with Wade and her time is up. Then Wade asked how much longer he got by exchanging 5 small lion robot toys. For 5 little lion robots Vanessa gave Wade 3 minutes and then they started having sex. Not only 3 minutes but more, but Wade and Vanessa became closer and became friends, lovers for about a year. Wade felt that Vanessa was the most perfect woman for him. Wade then asked Vanessa to get engaged. Vanessa also wanted to be Wade's wife because she also loved Wade, but moments later Wade suddenly collapsed. Vanessa was worried. Vanessa then asked Wade to get himself checked. Wade was surprised when the doctor said that he had cancer all over his body, which was in the final stage. Not only was Wade surprised, Vanessa's face was also very worried about Wade's condition. Then we return to the place where Deadpool is currently looking for Francis to hide and then the sound of a motorbike approaches Deadpool. And it turned out to be Francis. Deadpool then hit Francis repeatedly. Francis was confused as to why he was hit by Deadpool and he showed his true face and Francis remembered that it was Wade Wilson. Wade has a grudge against Francis because he made his face look ugly. When Wade wants to hit Francis, Colossus comes and throws Deadpool away from Francis. Back in the past, in the days after Wade and Vanessa realized that Wade's life would not last long because of the cancer he was suffering from, Vanessa looked devastated, but Wade always strengthened Vanessa that he would be fine. Even if he dies, Wade will wait for Vanessa in the next life. Vanessa then cries and says that there is no such thing as a next life. Vanessa doesn't want to lose Wade. Wade then goes to meet Weasel at the club. Weasel teases Wade because he can finally win on the death poll if Wade really dies of cancer. Inside the club there was someone waiting for Wade when Wade met him. That person said that he knew Wade had terminal cancer. He and his organization can heal Wade and can make Wade stronger than normal humans. Wade seemed to ignore the man's words and left him. That night at home, Wade kept thinking about the words of the man he had just met. In addition, Wade doesn't want Vanessa to be sad seeing his current situation, and then at that moment Wade packs up and decides to go see the man who earlier offered to help him, and we return to Wade's place who was disturbed by Colossus. Colossus continues to invite Wade to join X-Man. Colossus regretted that Deadpool's power was used carelessly as he pleased. Deadpool refuses to join X-Man because right now he wants to be free to do whatever he wants. In the midst of a debate between Deadpool and Colossus, it turns out that Francis managed to escape. Deadpool realized that he was annoyed with Colossus. He hit Colossus, but because Colossus' body was made of iron instead of Colossus being injured, but Deadpool's hand hurt. Deadpool hit him again and both of his hands hurt. Then Deadpool kicked Colossus but broke his leg. Deadpool was handcuffed and Colossus took him to X-Man's headquarters. As soon as Deadpool's hands and feet were healed with his abilities, he cut off his hand, which was handcuffed by Colossus, and jumped up onto the garbage truck. Deadpool has the ability to heal himself like Wolverine. Then the scene moves to the scene where finally Wade is willing to accept the offer of the man he met at the club to cure the cancer he suffered. Wade was taken to what looked like an experimental laboratory. There you can see people who are given various kinds of drugs such as guinea pigs. This is where Wade first met Francis. He is in charge of that place. The place is not owned by the government but a private project where they turn ordinary humans into mutants. Francis and his men, Angel, inject a serum that activates the mutant DNA in Wade's body. Francis is also a mutant. He has more power than ordinary humans and does not feel pain. The way they activate the mutant in Wade's body is to torture Wade and make him suffer, and Wade can have the power. Finally, Francis uses the last attempt to activate Wade's mutant gene by inserting Wade into a tube without air. There are two choices, namely the active mutant gene or Wade will die. Here Francis finally says that this place does not create superheroes but super slaves who are wearing control necklaces, which they will later be sold to the highest bidder, and then the mutants are used to terrorize citizens, kill soldiers and other dirty jobs. Wade was then shocked and realized that he had fallen into a trap. Francis closed the tube and emptied the oxygen in it. Unexpectedly, the mutant gene in Wade's body reacted, as seen by changing Wade's skin like a monster. Wade's face turned into a burnt mark. Not long after, Francis came back to him and opened the tube that was occupied by Wade. Wade looks angry at what Francis has done to him. His face became ugly. Francis said that he could cure Wade, but Francis preferred to see Wade's ugly appearance. Francis then closed the tube again and left Wade. When Francis left, it turned out that Wade had managed to take a match from Engel's mouth. Wade lit it and threw the fire right in the oxygen line, and instantly the oxygen exploded, destroying the place. When Francis came back, he realized that Wade had come out of the tube. Suddenly Wade was seen jumping and attacking Francis, and a fight broke out between Wade and Francis. Francis said that Wade would not be able to kill him because only he could heal Wade. They continued to fight, but this time Wade was unable to match Francis's abilities. Francis stabbed a large iron into Wade's body, who was falling, and left him when the building they were in began to collapse and crumble. A few moments later, after the fire in the place was extinguished, it turned out that the movement was Wade Wilson, who was still alive because with his mutant powers he could heal himself briefly. But because of his now ugly appearance, Wade was unable to meet Vanessa. He was only able to see Vanessa from a distance because people who see her on the street are scared to see Wade's ugly face. Then Wade met his friend Weasel and asked Weasel for help in tracking down the missing Francis. Weasel then advised Wade to wear a mask and use a pseudonym because Francis would think that Wade was dead. When they were confused about the name, Wade looked at the death poll board. He chose the name Deadpool. In his hiding place, Wade then made a costume to hide his identity while looking for Francis. Initially Wade wore a white costume and a white mask as well. But when he was shot or injured, red blood stains would stain his clothes. The next day at the laundry place, Wade had difficulty cleaning the blood stains on his clothes. Then an old grandmother suggested wearing red clothes instead of bothering. That night, Wade sewed his now red costume and used it against Francis by tracing the footsteps of Francis' men. Deadpool beat them one by one until finally he managed to find traces of Francis. The next day Deadpool ordered a taxi to go to where Francis was and beat up Francis. The taxi is a taxi driven by Dopelinder. When Deadpool falls on a dump truck, Deadpool tells the truck to stop somewhere. Deadpool looks annoyed that his plans were messed up by Colossus. Deadpool decides to go home. Currently he lives with the blind grandmother who had advised him to wear a red costume at the laundry. The grandmother's name was Am. At Francis's place there, he and his team are preparing mutants with control necklaces put in boxes for sale. Inside the headquarters, Francis finally knows Deadpool's identity and plans to stop Deadpool's actions and destroy him for good. In Wade's hiding place, he who had taken the antiseptic medicine looked exhausted. The hand that had been severed had started to grow again, but this time it was still small. Wade confides that he misses Vanessa. Em gives advice to Wade to meet Vanessa because faces are not everything, but Wade feels that with his current appearance Vanessa will be scared when she sees him. Wade is still waiting for his hands to grow again while thinking of ways to force Francis to return his face to how it used to be. Moving to the club, it turns out that Francis tracked Wade's whereabouts when he arrived at the club. There Francis asked Weasel where Wade was hiding. But Weasel refused to answer. Francis saw the photo behind Weasel and told Engel to take it. It was a photo of Wade with his girlfriend Vanessa. Francis then left the place with the plan. Weasel then called Wade and said that Vanessa was in big trouble. Weasel and Wade then rushed to meet Vanessa at her workplace. After searching here and there, Wade finally saw Vanessa from a distance. Wade did not dare to approach. Wade instead chose to go into the toilet. He didn't dare to meet Vanessa with his face at this time. At another place, Vanessa is told that someone is looking for her in the back. Vanessa also went to meet him when it turned out that the person was Francis. Francis and Angel immediately kidnapped Vanessa. Wade was aware that Vanessa was not where she was before. He looked behind him and found Vanessa's bag that had fallen. Wade looked very angry. When he got home he couldn't control his emotions. Then he heard a message coming from his phone. The message was from Francis. He told Wade to come to the junkyard at 12 noon. An enraged Wade tells Weasel to collect all the weapons they have. Seen a lot of weapons that they can collect and put in the bag. Wade rushed to meet Francis carrying a bag full of weapons. Elsewhere, Francis was waiting for Wade with many troops by holding Vanessa. Returning to Wade's place, who was already wearing a Deadpool costume this time, he met Megasonic and Colossus in the X-Man dorm and asked for their help to face Francis because as a result of Colossus, Francis was able to escape and catch Vanessa. Wade asks Megasonic and Colossus to help him get Vanessa back and the three of them set off in a Dopinder taxi.
My chrome penis friend back there. Pure pornography. Joining his boy band.
It's not boy band.
And Jenna-like, kill him.
He's super dead.
When they arrived at the appointed place, Deadpool, Colossus and Megasonic entered the junk area where Francis was waiting for them. When going into action, Deadpool also took full advantage of the property left in the Dopinder taxi. Deadpool also tried to call Dopinder, but Dopinder's taxi had an accident on the road and couldn't play the game. Deadpool had to fight against Francis without a weapon that had been prepared in advance. In there, dozens of troops belonging to Francis were waiting for them. Francis and Engel himself were on a wrecked ship. Engel, who was beside Francis, went straight down and towards the Colossus and was right above him. Unexpectedly he was able to hit the Colossus, which was thrown quite far. Megasonic went forward and retaliated and fought with fully armed Francis men. Colossus fights against Engel. Engel's power can manifest Colossus. Meanwhile, with his sword, Deadpool attacked Francis men one by one. Under Deadpool to arrange the bodies of Francis's men into what his name implies, Megasonic then helps Deadpool to get on the ship. On the ship, Deadpool finally came face to face with Francis, and this time Francis put Vanessa into a vacuum tube and sucked out the air inside. Vanessa looks tormented in it. Francis then takes two axes and is ready to fight Deadpool. Deadpool then throws one of his swords through the tube, allowing air to enter the tube, and Vanessa can breathe again. Deadpool also continued his fight with Francis. Deadpool was quite tired of facing Francis. Vanessa tried to escape with the rope in hand using Deadpool's stab sword. Vanessa was finally able to escape. He was helpless. Deadpool was hit by Francis, immediately ran and stabbed a sword into Francis's body, but Francis was still able to get up and throw Vanessa. Below, Megasonic, who saw the helpless Colossus against Engel, then helped him by blowing up the place, causing the mast to collapse and the large ship to tilt. On the leaning ship, Deadpool and Francis are still fighting. Francis was then thrown and hit by a crate that slid down. Deadpool also helps Vanessa, who balances herself. Deadpool then puts Vanessa into an airless tube to protect her. The big ship was getting tilted and finally they both fell off the ship. The ship finally collapsed. Megasonic and Colossus are finally able to save Vanessa. Elsewhere, Francis is still trying to attack Deadpool, but this time Deadpool is able to paralyze Francis. Deadpool asks Francis to heal the ugly one, and so does Francis and says that in fact he laughs and there is no medicine that can heal the face. Deadpool looks angry and feels. Deadpool then pulls out his small gun and intends to shoot Francis in the head. Then Colossus' voice stops him. When Colossus jumps and tells Deadpool to be a kind hero, Deadpool keeps shooting Francis in the head and kills him. Colossus looks vomit and disgusted to see it. Deadpool can't stand to hear Colossus. Deadpool fails as people think if by wearing a costume of mistakes and then condoning psychopathic behavior. Deadpool chooses not to be a hero because not everyone is ready to make sacrifices like other heroes. Then Vanessa comes and beats Deadpool repeatedly in annoyance. Deadpool also apologized for leaving Vanessa and couldn't see her again. Vanessa took off Deadpool's mask. Her face was visible in it. When the mask was removed, Wade's ugly face was seen. Vanessa was surprised to see Wade's ugly face, but unexpectedly, Vanessa said that although she was ugly, only Wade Wilson could make her happy. Colossus and Megasonic also left the place, not wanting to disturb those who missed their longing, and when the place was quiet, Wade and Vanessa hugged.